Hello everyone. Today we will analyze a game between Grandmaster Vincent Keymer and the tournament leader Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So this game was played in round 4 of Grand Chess Super Chess Classic. Let's quickly go through the game. And yeah, just an update. Ali Reza Firoza, he did not play against Fabiano in this round. So people say that he's going through a tough time because he lost 2 games in a row, but the official reason is that he's not feeling well, so he didn't play the game. So let's go through this game. This game started with e4. Vincent is white and Vachier-Lagrave Maxim is black. So the game started with e4, c5, knight f3, and d6. So this is Sicilian. D4, pretty standard stuff. C takes D4, knight takes D4, and knight F6, knight C3, and A6. So this is Najdorf variation, a very known variation, and like this position is pretty good for white. Like pretty much every move has its own advantages here. Vincent played f3, which is a lesser known move, but it's still a very good move, supporting this e4 pawn, and it makes sense to solidify the center in this position. Black plays e5, knight b3, bishop e6, and here comes bishop e3, taking the control of this dark squares. So that black cannot play queen b6 later. Bishop e7 and queen d2. So queen d2 basically prepares for long side castle, but it also keeps an option open, just to like keep a control over the second file. And here comes h5. So Maxim in his own style, he already starts attacking on the king side flank. Bishop e2. So I like what Vincent is doing. He's keeping both the options open. He can castle long side or he can castle short side. Knight d7 and knight d5. So Vincent already putting his knight on a very candidate good square in a central square. So Maxim says, no, I don't want that knight there. So captures, and queen c7. So after queen c7, a very standard move here is c4, supporting this d5 pawn and not allowing any counter attack on c file, as this pawn is now supported by this bishop. a5. So plan behind a5 is just to push and a4 kick off this knight. Knight cannot go on d4 square because it's controlled by the pawn. So knight will be forced to go down the board. And here Vincent plays rook d1. So rook d1 is there are not much games played with this move. So as of move 14, we completely have a new game here. And Maxim plays h4. Again, this is very like top rated move by engine in this position. Castles, and Vincent plays rook e1. So trying to bring his rooks in the center. Okay, not that, but yeah, here. And here Maxim plays knight h5 with the plan of f5 and f4. So Maxim says, I'm not waiting for you to attack. I'm going to attack myself on king side. And here Vincent plays knight c1. So basically plan behind knight c1 can be, after bishop goes to d3, knight can come to e2, and then like whenever we get a chance, he can get the knight to g3 or even g3, knight g1 and knight h3. And here comes f5 again with the same plan of playing f4. So Vincent trying to make this solid pawn chain by playing b3. And here comes b6, bishop d3, and queen d8. So plan behind queen d8 is now that the queen side is closed, this queen was doing nothing here. So it was already blocked. So now Maxim's plan is to bring queen to d1, d8, e8, and then have have good activity along this diagonal and try to attack the king. So Vincent develops his knight e2, knight e2, queen e8, and then bishop c2. So plan behind bishop c2 can be just to put queen ahead, and whenever this pawn moves, you have a mating idea of queen h7. So here comes queen g6 and king h1, also getting off this queen's file and also preparing for knight g1 and then knight h3. Rook c8, and here comes knight g1. Knight c5. So uh, Maxim already putting his knight on a good square here. So we don't have chance to push f4 or anything, because then we have a good outpost for knight. And here comes knight h3. Bishop f6, rook f1, rook e8, and rook e1. So see how cleverly Vincent maneuvers his rooks. He knows that d file, there is nothing to be done on d file here, but there will be action on these two files whenever black pushes with this pawn. So whenever black pushes e4 or f4, there will be action on e and f file. So he maneuvers his both the rooks to e and f. So rook f1, rook e8. Maxim also knows the action will be going on the e file, so he brings his rook to e8, and Vincent brings his other rook to e1. Queen h7, maybe queen h7, preparing some kind of g6, just trying to solidify this pawn chain. And then Vincent plays a3 with a plan of b4. Maxim actually invites b4 by playing a4. And here comes b4, knight b3. So knight b3 already not a very good move by Maxim, because this knight here is, because all the action is going on this side of the board, but this knight here is doing nothing. Vincent can easily just play queen d3 and just bishop takes knight, pawn takes, queen takes, and he's pawn up. But he starts with queen e2 first, or if there is like e4 after takes, you always have an control over this g4 square. But after bishop d8, he quickly brings his queen on the rightful square d3, and here comes e4, which is a mistake by Maxim, because once you take that pawn, you cannot really capture it by anything. So here in this case, uh, Maxim played rook takes e4, but even if you capture it by pawn, let's say f takes e4, there is queen e2 here. So now my plan is to just bring my queen to g4 square, also hitting this rook and keeping an eye on this knight, and my this rook is open. I can just double up and you're getting checkmated there. So Maxim plays f takes e4. Sorry, so Maxim plays rook takes e4, which is even worse, because now after bishop g1, I'm attacking this rook, and Maxim plays rook takes c4. Now, if rook takes rook, you cannot even capture by this pawn. So next move, Vincent plays rook takes rook. You cannot even capture by f takes because the rook is unsupported. So you have to capture it by rook. So rook takes f4, and now that my bishop is in the same line of the rook, Vincent takes advantage of that and he plays queen b5. So threatening the rook, and where can the rook move? Let's say for instance, rook g4, just keeping an eye, and that's it. Queen e8 is already a checkmate here. So this is how bad black's position was. So you have to keep the rook along this file. Let's say if you play rook e5, I can just capture this pawn, and that's it. Like what can you play here? So it's already pretty lost position. So after rook takes c4, rook takes, and queen b5. Maxim says, okay, you take my rook. I'm fine to be an exchange down, but I want to survive. And he plays queen g6, supporting this e8 square so that there is no idea of queen e8. And Vincent just grabs the rook, bishop takes rook, pawn takes, and here there are like every move is actually winning, but Vincent chooses the best bishop e3. He brings out the bishop on a very good diagonal, and now his plan is simple. After bishop f6, uh, in this position, all the moves win. You can start with queen takes b6 or queen c6, any move, just threatening, uh, queen c8. Queen takes a4, attacking the knight, and now there is again a threat of queen a8 check. So Maxim plays knight d4 here, knight which is supported by bishop, and whenever uh, like there is a support, you remove the defender. Vincent does that. Rook takes f6, brilliant move, just removing the defender. And in this position, Maxim resigned because what do you play here? If you play knight takes f6, white can just start with queen a8 check, king f7, queen b7 check. Where do you go? King f8 and bishop takes d4. So you're already in a bad position here, and things are getting worse. So you will quickly get checkmated here. And after rook f6, if you capture by queen here, then here comes queen e8 check, king h7, knight g5 check, and it's already a checkmate into if you play king h6, queen h8, king g6, and queen h7 is a checkmate. So you cannot even capture it by queen. If you capture it by pawn, then here comes bishop takes d4, and whatever you play here, you have three isolated pawns here. Your king is weak, my king is safe. Queen 8 is coming, queen d7 is coming. So this is pretty much lost for black. And in this position actually, Maxim, who was the tournament leader, he resigned the game. uh, Vincent is leading the tournament with, like, I think 3 or 4 players trailing him at the second position. So this will be an interesting tournament.